Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, get it. Take it. All right.
What do you get? First one? No problem. Dan. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Say your name. Say your name. Yousef Zindani.
All right. Calling case number 240-574-9101. People of the state of Michigan versus Yousef Zindani. Counsel.
Steve Vincent for the people.
Jessica Scheibe on behalf of Mr. Zindani, who has formal reading, understands his constitutional rights. It stands to him.
Thank you, counsel. The court notes formal reading has been waived. Enters a not guilty plea on your client's behalf. Positions as to bond case. The charges here are possession, unlawful possession or use of a harmful device, that being gasoline, preparation to burn property, $20,000 or more, felonious assault with gasoline, domestic violence, and another count of domestic violence. Positions as to bond.
Yeah, respectfully, Judge, allegedly the defendant tried to burn his house down with his wife and all of his kids inside. Ended up saying so as well. Ended up pouring gasoline on his wife as well as parts of his house. His kids were at home. In fact, one of his children that were upstairs ended up hearing the defendant as well as his mom fighting. They tried to act as a barrier between the defendant and the mom. And what did the defendant do to try to get the child out of the way? Did so, then ended up pulling down his pants, telling the child while he was exposed, "This is where you came from, motherfucker." That's what he told one of his children, pointing to his penis. Judge, this is highly dangerous. I think I actually would have been justified in asking for more. But we are going to stick to our $200,000 cash request, as well as tether and home confinement. Judge, fortunately, nothing ended up happening, but allegedly this defendant ended up producing that gas and pouring it. If that would have been ignited with children upstairs in that house, Judge, these could have been multiple fatalities. So respectfully, we're asking for that cash to protect the family, his wife, his children, as well as the neighborhood for that matter, because if a house goes up in flames, Judge, who knows what then happens in terms of those flames and houses in close proximity.
Thank you. Understood, Mr. Vincent. Defense.
Your Honor, we understand these are serious allegations against my client, but he has no prior criminal history to our knowledge, not on probation or parole, nothing pending. He is employed. He understands absolutely no contact with any parties involved or the address. He has 4 kids, was living with his wife and kids, but he will not be returning to that address. Respectfully asking the court to consider a very high personal bond. If the court is not inclined to do that without a GPS tether and house arrest to ensure the safety, then we understand, Your Honor. And we would ask that he be allowed to go to work and work only.
Thank you. The allegations here, quite frankly, are absolutely terrifying. They're not only made by the spouse, but by the children as well. Everyone kind of corroborating the same story, which is that there was at least a preparation to burn up everybody in that house. And while I do not normally do this, I am exceeding the bond requested by the people out of a severe concern for spouse and children in this case. Bond is set at $500,000 cash, no surety. Next court date will be a bond review, June the 3rd in McConaughey's courtroom. After that, June 7th for probable cause conference, June 12th for preliminary examination. Those are both scheduled in front of Judge King. There is to be no contact or attempted contact with any of the complainants, meaning no verbal contact, no written contact, no contact through third parties or social media. Any attempted contact would be considered a violation of the conditions of the bond. Thank you.
We're ready, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
All right, sounds like we're ready on Vinnie Gilbert, DDC. Ready when you can get him here.
How you doing, Your Honor?
I'm good, thank you. What's your name?
Vinnie Gilbert.
Thank you. Calling case number 240-574-9301, people of the state of Michigan versus Vinnie Gilbert, counsel.
Jennifer Douglas for the people, P72748. Can you give me just 1 second, Your Honor?
Uh-huh.
Jessica Shive on behalf of Mr. Gilbert, who is formal reading, understands his constitutional rights and stands here.
Okay, I'm sorry, we didn't realize he wasn't on the list. We each thought he belonged to somebody else.
That's all right. I
You
got
want
it.
me?
No,
You got it? Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Did we waive formal reading and stand your client mute? I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Shive? Okay,
Yes,
thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Formal reading is waived. Will incur not guilty plea on your client's behalf. All right, positions as to bond, please.
Judge, I had the opportunity to look into the defendant's criminal past as well as the allegations in this matter. We're asking for 10,000 cash. We're also asking for a tether as well as home confinement. The complaining witness in this matter, Judge, she actually has a PPO against this defendant. And in the bond conditions from Macomb County, where he ended up getting convicted of, I'm just going to pull it out because it's on Otis. It was mentioned in the investigator's report. There's mention of no contact 500 feet away from the residence. I don't know if this was the particular residence that was mentioned in there, but there's also a personal protection order. This is the individual that was supposedly being protected from that PPO. And now we have this individual in the front lawn where the individual is in the inside of the house pouring gasoline on that lawn. He was convicted in Macomb April 20th of 23 for operating impaired as well as an R&O. Don't really know how the PPO ends up getting tied into that, Judge. However, with all of that being said, we do have a complainant who is trying to protect herself against this defendant failing to abide by the conditions of that PPO, failing to abide by the conditions of the probation over in Macomb County. And now we have him at the scene pouring gas. Apparently he was threatening to light the car on fire. So respectfully, Judge, we find him to be a danger. We're asking for that cash as well as monitorization and home confinement.
Yeah.
Respectfully asking the court to consider a personal bond, no objection to a high personal bond, absolutely no contact with that address or any parties involved, understands needs to make up to all of his court dates. We're not aware of KPS history. These are allegations, Your Honor. So respectfully asking for that. Any bond is going to be unaffordable. If the court is not inclined to do that without a GPS tether and house arrest, then we understand, Your Honor. We ask that he be allowed to go to work and work.
All right, thank you. This is not simply a he said, she said case. This is a case where the police arrived on the scene, found a gasoline container, smelled gasoline. Defendant admitted to pouring gasoline, at least on the ground of the front yard where the person who was supposed to be being protected from him was located with her child.
Right.
You know how I feel about this. When PPOs don't work and bonds don't work, bond conditions don't work, the last resort, the only thing I can do is keep defendant in order to keep complainant safe. So that's what I'm going to do. Bond is set at $10,000 cash, no surety. If he's able to make that bond, GPS tether with full home confinement out of severe concern for the safety of the complainant in this case. She's got a PPO that's active, he knew about, that's been violated. Bond conditions that he knew about, those were violated. No point in me imposing more bond conditions now without something more. That something more is $10,000 cash. No surety. GPS tether with full home confinement if he's able to make the bond. Next court dates, June 3rd, bond review, Mechanico's courtroom. June 11th, probable cause conference. June 18th, preliminary examination. Those last two in front of Judge Sabri. There is to be no contact or attempted contact with the complainant. That means no verbal contact, no written contact, no contact through third parties or social media. Any attempted contact would be considered a violation of the conditions of the bond. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, Magistrate, good to see you.